This man claims it may well be. But wait for it. He says the government does too. Yes, it's live and lively. You're watching TV's most talked about talk show. It's Central Weekend. The show that proves there is life on British TV. Welcome your presenters tonight, Sue J, Anna Soubry, and Nikki Campbell.
Well, good evening. Welcome to Central Weekend and to our audience tonight, which comes from Leicester. Now, listen, we make our first sighting of aliens in about 45 minutes, and that is a cracker.
We meet the investigator who says they've been here for years and that the American government is on the verge of owning up to the fact. Join us in a couple of minutes.
Oh, yes, I recognise that music, those close encounters. Welcome back. The subject now is aliens. The question, are they already here? Now, this remarkable image appeared in the tabloids this week, billed as the real face of a being from outer space. Ready to scoff? Well, our next guest offers the startling claim that the American government is on the brink of a public education program which admits aliens do exist. Timothy Good, you've written this book, and some very interesting facts emerged from it. You say that governments have not only known about aliens, but they have been monitoring UFOs for about 40 years. We're talking, obviously, the main government, Soviet Union, and specifically the USA. And they have been working with, studying, and meeting with, cooperating with alien beings. Now, Timothy, this is great science fiction.
Well, I think I should point out that there have now been thousands of reports by highly qualified observers. And under the Freedom of Information Act, tens of thousands of documents have now been released by agencies such as the CIA, FBI, National Security Agency, Defense Intelligence Agency, the Atomic Energy Commission, and many others. All those agencies denied for decades any serious involvement in UFO research. And now they also admit that they are withholding many documents on UFOs in the interests of national security.
Why are they withholding them? Why the cover-up? For goodness sake, this is big news. Extraterrestrials on the planet Earth working with the US government.
I think there are many good reasons for the cover-up. First of all, they want to avoid overreaction by the media and the public. Secondly, that there is a clear defense interest, since they apparently have acquired a number of these craft since the late 1940s, and they're not about to
Hang on one second. The US government have acquired flying objects, spacecraft.
Sure. This is one of the most sensational allegations in my book, I agree, but it has been confirmed by a former director of the National Security Agency, who is also a former deputy director of the CIA, Admiral Bobby Ray Inman. Furthermore, another intelligence chief, who is called Rear Admiral Shapiro, former director of naval intelligence, has also confirmed to former NASA mission specialist Bob Oechsler that we have actually acquired a number of extraterrestrial vehicles for research and testing.
Heinz Wolf, have you read this book?
Yes, I've got it here with me.
What do you think of it?
Well, I'm not given to strong language, as my friends will know, but I think it's a lot of balls.
Do you not mean sort of universal spheres rather than balls?
Bollocks.
Bollocks, I think.
Sorry.
Why?
Well, really at three levels. The first, I mean, taking it more seriously, the first level is the government's conspiracy. It is well known that Western government in particular can't keep anything secret for more than a week or two. There were toy versions of the stealth bomber on the market before anybody else was supposed to know about the stealth bomber. I cannot believe that for 40-odd years, such sensational news can indeed have been kept from the public by some sort of universal conspiracy, and that it is people who are very peripheral in general, who've seen something by peripheral vision, who should spring
But
the
it's
lead.
quite clear, if you have read the book, it's quite clear there is some form of a cover-up. That's undeniable.
Well,
They're covering something up. The question is what?
Well, I mean, let me my second reason of disbelief. I think if there is a cover-up, then they're covering up what may well be genuine defense research. I mean, there must have been test flights by stealth bombers and test flights by other kinds of secret airplanes, which governments quite genuinely wanted to cover up. My second level of disbelief is some of the evidence which is actually in this book. For instance, on one page, there is a description of a gravity-free room in which the conditions which governments are spending billions of dollars to create an orbiting spacecraft can actually be produced on Earth. Now, if this were to be true, then the Americans, the Soviets, and the Europeans are wasting enormous sums of money in orbiting spacecraft in order to do microgravity experiments. It's something which I am very interested in doing. So this is most unlikely.
Basically, Heinz Wolf, it's something you just don't understand because these people are light years ahead of us in technology. So why should you understand it? You're just an earthling.
No, but if the governments have access to microgravity conditions on the ground, nobody would bother to run a space program. And the space programs are consuming enormous sums of money. So they're cheating themselves.
Tim Good.
Yes, well, I'd like to point out that I'm at present cooperating with a senator's aide in the United States who deals with a Senate Appropriations Committee on international and national security policies. He's currently investigating the misappropriation of huge sums of money into top secret research into UFOs. So there's one answer for you. The other one is that Mr. Bob Oechsler, who is a former NASA mission specialist who's actually worked on the shuttlecraft, has actually experienced this anti-gravity chamber 20 miles outside Houston. And why don't you talk to him about it?
Well, why don't we talk to him about it?
Let's do that,
We've got him on the phone.
Right, let's do that.
All right, Bob Oechsler, can you hear me?
Yes, I can, Nicky.
Now, first of all, you were a NASA mission specialist, right?
Yes, I was a NASA mission specialist. My area of expertise is robotics, and I did work on a variety of projects, the Apollo-Soyuz test project, the International Ultraviolet Explorer, and I also worked on the shuttle project involving the mechanical manipulator arm. I would like to make a couple of comments, if I might, just in answer to some of the comments that I've just heard, one involving the issue of keeping secrets. The United States government's in the business of keeping secrets. That's essentially what they do. There's quite a number of statistics out showing vast numbers in the millions per year of secrets that are classified. The issue of sensationalism surrounding this particular topic is essentially the one thread that makes it possible to maintain secrecy for such a long period of time.
All right, Bob, I want to ask you a few questions because I know you've got some interesting things to say. You've seen pictures, photographs of aliens, right?
Yes, I have.
What do they look like?
Well, there's actually a variety of species that somehow or another have managed to interact with this planet. The primary and dominant one, which seems to be interacting with the human population, it's really somewhat more ominous than I would prefer to get into, but they're, as far as their descriptions, they're rather small in stature. They're about roughly 4 feet high, a little over a meter tall. They have a somewhat oversized head in proportion to the rest of the body. They are humanoid. They have 2 legs, 2 arms, hands. The hands have but 3 fingers and kind of a stub of a thumb. The
Not
eyes
unlike
are
something Steven...
extraordinarily large, almond-shaped.
Not unlike something that Steven Spielberg would come up with.
Not entirely. In fact, the figure that a lot of people are familiar with, the creature E.T. from the movie E.T., is in fact a composite that was done from real aliens, both live and deceased, that have been recovered in a variety of situations involving crashes of these vehicles.
Right. Talking of the vehicles, just talking of the vehicles, I want to bring in David Whitehouse, science correspondent, who's with us tonight. Just talking of the vehicles which you mentioned there, you can categorically state that you have spoken to top American physicists who have worked on and examined these vehicles, these UFOs.
Absolutely.
David Whitehouse.
This seems to be the case all the way through. People have talked to somebody else. If you read this book, if this is the best evidence that you can come up with 43 years after aliens walked onto an Air Force base in America, then this evidence is pretty poor and wouldn't convict anybody. what they're saying is so amazing. First contact with an alien from another planet, another civilization, would be a major event in human civilization. And
but would it? Would they not want to keep it quiet?
No.
Because does it not undermine civilization? The mere fact that there are more intelligent beings than us, does that not undermine governments?
I think what we've established is that governments are paranoid and they're in the process of keeping things secret. They're insecure. The fact that UFO documents are kept secret, some of them are released, some of them are kept classified, shows that governments can keep pieces of paper secret. I mean, they do that all the time.
You're a trained cynic, you're a scientist.
What I would like is tough-mindedness. What they're saying is so amazing that in order to convince people who are open but tough-minded about it, they have to come up with the evidence, and the evidence is pretty appalling.
What evidence do you want? Do you want them to appear on the Wogan show?
Well, I want something more. Yes, that would be fine. I'd like to see President Bush landed at a top-secret American Air Force base, walking down the steps from Air Force One, walking into a chamber to meet an alien, seeing an alien spaceship.
Let's speak to a man
I want something other than second-hand
you want concrete
stories.
proof, you want an alien to walk up and shake your hand. Bob Oechsler?
Yes.
Why don't the aliens do more to reveal themselves to us?
Well, let us look at it in the perspective of what we have in terms of the evidence of what the aliens have accomplished. I think you could liken it to looking at the human population as a laboratory experiment.
We're guinea pigs.
Yes, like guinea pigs. Now, do you think the guinea pigs would actually be able to convince one of us to come and communicate directly to them about what we're going to do to them? I think not.
What I'm saying to you...
The situation entails here a very extraordinary series of experiments that have been going on where, in effect, the human population is the guinea pig here.
What I'm saying to you is, Bob, do the aliens want to reveal themselves to us? Or are they quite happy keeping it on a sort of clandestine level?
Well, the evidence has clearly been in the past that the aliens have participated as much in the cover-up, if you will, as the governments have. However, there certainly appears as though there is somewhat of an alien glasnost policy going on in the town of Gulf Breeze, Florida, where I am presently. For 3 years consecutive now, there have been so many very close-up encounters and sightings and photographs and videotapes. High-technology photographs are being done even as we speak now. I have examined a lot of this material. In fact, in January of this year, I was able to bring an ABC network television crew here, and within 3 days, we had 2 sightings and recorded it on videotape using high-resolution camera equipment, and it was subsequently broadcast across America. It's ironic that some 80% of the United States missed that part of the broadcast because of the Gulf War update. However, it was subsequently run some weeks later.
Yeah. Okay, well, Heinz Wolf, yeah, but do you still think it's a load of nonsense?
Yes, but can I ask quite a specific question about this gravity-free room? Because that is perhaps more easy to demonstrate than an alien. Have you been inside this gravity-free room? And if you have, and if experienced microgravity, why do you think billions of dollars are being spent to establish microgravity conditions in space?
Well, I think that's quite obvious, really. I'm also aware of some other projects where this same technology was applied to the B-2 stealth project.
The stealth bomber
is a case where there's some $842 million per plane being spent when they have technology that's infinitely superior. The key and the answer to your question regarding waste is it's not waste at all. We're talking about jobs. We're talking about economics.
Right, let's not talk about jobs and economics just now, Bob, because you make a very interesting point there. You say that the stealth bomber, which we all know, of course, from the Gulf conflict, came, really, the aliens helped us build that plane. Is that what you're saying?
I wouldn't say the aliens helped us build it, no. What I would say is that we have been working with the technology for so long, we have found ways to adapt the technology for our own uses. And in the case of the B-2 stealth project, at least, I don't know about the 117A stealth fighter, but in the stealth bomber project, I'm fully aware of the development of an anti-gravity cabin for that particular plane. It was designed, in fact, for vertical takeoff and landing.
David Whitehouse, you can't argue with that.
The stealth bomber is an interesting bit of technology, but its performance in the Gulf War was not particularly impressive. Isn't it rather stupid of the American government when they have got these gravity alien spacecraft which can seemingly flit around in the atmosphere undetected at enormous speeds to be messing around with the crude technology of a stealth bomber?
Well, the answer to that's quite simple. Why bring out your best ammunition when you don't need but just a little bit of old technology to handle the situation? Why give away your hand? Don't you play poker?
It's interesting, though, the attitude about the American government, because, Timothy, in your book, you say, and a lot of it is hearsay and rumour, but it's very interesting hearsay and rumour, and as you say, people aren't going to actually come out and say this because too much is at risk. But you say there's an interesting theory on the series of space films that we've been seeing, you know, E.T., Close Encounters of the Third Time. What's that exactly?
Well, it has been speculated that a number of science fiction films have received a certain amount of backing from the United States government to promote the general concept of extraterrestrials. But it's just a hypothesis. I'm not saying that's true.
There was a rumour at some stage, and you mentioned in your book, The Cosmic Journey. There was a George Bush-sanctioned exhibition which was going to actually show off a UFO.
Well, as a matter of fact, both Bob and I have been involved in this Cosmic Journey project, which is a planned international exhibition funded by the United States government with Rockwell International and NASA, and it is apparently to feature an extraterrestrial vehicle and or a body, and Bob Oechsler has gained a great deal of information about this from people, for example, a general in the Pentagon. Perhaps he can tell us more about it.
No, this is the most amazing thing. I mean, why do it like
Hang on, we've got Bob back. Yeah, go on, Bob. You had a meeting in the Pentagon with a general about an exhibition that you were going to show off an unidentified flying object which had been captured or surrendered.
Yes, that's true. As a matter of fact, the meetings really started down in Orlando, Florida, which is the corporation that was essentially the front for developing the project. It's a dual project involving the United States and Tokyo as well. In fact, Junichi Yaoi, who is here with me in Gulf Breeze, was my counterpart on the Tokyo exhibit.
Okay.
The exhibit essentially is to create a traveling exhibit to show the planetary space program, the development of that program. Fully 1/3 of the exhibit involves the UFO phenomenon, and as Timothy pointed out, a disk and a variety of other issues.
Right, that's about 33%. You had your hand up, Mr. Cohen. What would you like to say?
I'd like to change the subject a little bit off the technology. It seems to me that I find these aliens unbelievable. I find them unbelievable because very nearly all of them are so immensely humanoid. It seems that the people who've seen them have used far too little information, far too little imagination, I'm sorry. Because on this planet, we look like the things that are most familiar to us, obviously. But if we ran evolution again, even on this planet, we would get a totally different kind of creature. We wouldn't have something like that.
What you're saying is he's got 2 eyes, a nose, and a mouth.
That 2 eyes, a nose, and a mouth is perhaps the kind of thing you might get convergently in a variety of cases. Sure. But to have that really bad design problem that I have trouble with myself,
Me
to
too.
have the...
It's actually a model.
But it's got a nose above the mouth.
It's a model based on an original description. It was actually a model exhibited in Montreal in 1967.
So I can't look at anything to do
with
with it and say it's got a head. That creature, like me, has an ancestor who was a fish. It is too like us. It is a land vertebrate on this planet. It is like, it's so coincidentally exactly like us.
Why doesn't it have, why doesn't it have 6 legs and a head down here and legs up here?
Well, there are reasons
That's science fiction. That's science fiction.
Well,
if you can...
I'm a professional in actually designing convincing aliens in science fiction.
Are you a prophet?
No, but I'm a scientist and I'm professional about it.
You have been abducted by aliens, David.
Yeah.
What happened?
Well, basically the experience entailed me actually going to bed, finding myself on a craft with 2 alien beings, very much human in appearance, no weird features, blonde hair, shoulder length, silver suit. The female occupant actually pressed the button, showed me a star chart, and telepathically said this is where she came from.
Sort of A to Z of the galaxy?
Sort of, yeah.
Where did she come from?
Well, she didn't actually say as such, like this is Delta, Zelta. She said this was a part of the universe that she actually came from, but not actually named it sort of specifically. I woke up the next morning sort of confused, but convinced myself that it had actually happened.
And what did they look like? Did they have noses and eyes?
Very much like us, human in appearance. Very much human, nothing weird about them at all.
What's this you've got there in your hand?
Well, this is a model of the classic flying saucer, which is just one of the types of craft that have been seen around Earth for the last 40, 50 years.
You come from the Aetherius Society, don't you?
That's correct.
Your leader, Sir George King, is in constant contact with Aetherius, a being from Venus.
He's had a contact with beings from within this solar system and outside it for over 35 years.
Is he just a fruitcake?
No, no, he's not. He's actually a master
Madeira cake? Keep going.
He's actually a master of yoga. He's someone who's developed the higher aspects of mind and is able to bring about a very unusual form of transmediumship.
Timothy Good, do accounts like this help your cause at all?
Not at all. I regard George King as a charlatan who's knighted himself and doctored himself. He calls himself His Eminence the Reverend Dr. Sir George King. He certainly wasn't knighted by the Queen.
So generally speaking, I can't...
Knighted, and his various titles he has not bestowed on
But
himself.
I must make one thing clear, the Queen didn't knight him. Archie Roy, do aliens exist?
I think that, like the majority of professional astronomers, I find it almost inconceivable that aliens do not exist. But in 35 years of my profession as an astronomer, I have not come across any piece of hard evidence that they do. And yet, the International Astronomical Union has a commission to search for extraterrestrial intelligence. It takes the whole subject seriously, but its opinion is that there is no evidence whatsoever as of the present moment.
Well, that's almost halfway towards what you're saying, Tim, isn't it? Governments are indeed taking it seriously. And in your book, you quote Mikhail Gorbachev, who says that the phenomenon of UFOs must be taken seriously.
That's correct, last year. He
Mikhail
stated
Gorbachev said that, David.
You're mixing two different things up here. UFOs, things people see in the sky, could be an atmospheric phenomenon. We don't know. They are unidentified flying objects. They prove nothing. If the government collects pieces of paper on them and classifies them, it says more about governments than it does about what they know about UFOs. Aliens in spaceships, people being taken for rides, frozen alien bodies in a traveling circus, antimatter, anti-gravity drives, they're totally different from UFOs. A government would be irresponsible not to take UFOs seriously because of the implications for defence.
And one of the most powerful men in the world says we have to take these things seriously, so they must be taken seriously at some levels of government.
Of course they do. Governments collate, they correct, they investigate all sorts of things, and they classify all sorts of things. It proves nothing about silver-suited aliens, be they anthropomorphic or anything else. Where is the evidence?
Anthropo what? Bob Oechsler. Bob Oechsler, can you still hear me?
Yes, I have a comment.
Where did I want really to ask you a question. I know that the physicists on Earth that you've been in contact with have spoken to these aliens. I want to know where these aliens come from, and I want to know where do we come from.
Do they speak English?
Well, I can take the last question first about do they speak English. It's not necessary to speak any specific language of the planet because they predominantly use a telepathic type of communication which uses both hemispheres of the brain, and the translation is done simultaneously.
Bob, we're running out of time. Where do we come from? Where have these aliens told your friends that we come from?
Well, the best guess might be that we come from a planetary system, or actually a test tube project, if you will, from a planetary system 36.6 light years away. According to some of the documents the physicist has reviewed,
what you're saying is we are a genetic experiment by alien beings and superior intelligences. Heinz Wolf, you don't look unlike that alien. Has anything that you've heard tonight, with all due respect, and you know I mean it, convinced you? Last word, briefly.
No, I think it is more probable that the traffic cones we see along the motorways are aliens than the evidence which we have been presented with today.
So you stand by your first comment?
Yes.
Thank you very much indeed, Timothy Good as well. Thank you.
Well, we have had several phone calls from people who claim to have seen UFOs. Mr. Moore from Telford says he saw an enormous triangular spaceship that swooped low over him. Caller from Brierley Hills says she and her son saw a UFO near their home. Barbara Forrest says she wasn't drunk, although she was frightened by what she believed was an alien craft. And a final call. John Cookston from Stratford says, we all know the American government cooperates with alien life forces. It certainly explains Dan Quayle. That's it for this week. Remember, we're back same time next Friday with that little and large debate. For now, from all of us here, good night.